Greetings. Welcome to the initial and premiere episode of the Truck Stop Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Reed, and I'm joined with my great host, co-host, Mr. Malcolm Smith. Good morning, Malcolm.
Good morning. Thank you, brother Kevin. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you feeling this morning, sir?
Feeling real good. Happy to be here. Happy to be on this podcast. Ready to educate. Ready to give the people some knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So we want to tell our viewers and listeners about our format. What the truck stop is, what we're going to be covering on this podcast, and just kind of what we do. And they're going to learn a little bit about who we are kind of as we go along. So here at the truck stop, we are all things trucking. We have a very unique format. We have 4 different segments, and we want to kind of talk about those segments, what they are, and what we'll be covering in our 4 different segments. Really unique show, really different type of content. It's going to be fun and exciting, and I'm excited about all of this. Our first segment, which we'll be dropping these maybe a couple to 3 times a week. We'll be dropping shows. It'll be around our transportation business series. Segment 1 will be around our transportation business series. And that's where we're going to go in and educate our viewers and listeners to the many different facets of trucking and logistics. We're going to literally teach them how to build a trucking company. So what I want to do, what we'd like to do now is, Malcolm, let's teach these our viewers how to calculate their cost per mile. You up for that? All right.
Yes.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying we can jump right into that because that's very important. We need to talk about that. If you don't know the number, you are already behind.
Awesome. All right, so we are going into our trucking business series where we're going to show you how to calculate your cost per mile. All right, so understanding your cost per mile. This is all about knowing your costs. It's a simple formula for those of you who are owner-operators, small fleet owners, how to know whether or not you're running profitable, how to know if the rates that you're charging, if they make sense, if they cover your expenses. So we're going to teach you this formula, very simple, and you'll always be able to go back to it. So understanding your cost per mile, fixed versus variable costs. The importance of understanding costs. Managing cost is important regardless of the state of your business. If you're doing well, cutting costs will increase your ability to save more or invest more in your business growth. If your business is in financial danger, cutting costs is one of the key components in weathering problems and getting back on track. Managing costs should be one of the top strategic objectives in operating your business. By understanding some of the principles of operating costs, you can save thousands of dollars each year. If your truck drives 120,000 miles in 1 year and you're able to save just 1 penny per mile, you'll save $1,200 in the course of that year. Just 1 penny per mile will allow you to save $1,200 through the course of a year. Your cost is going to change based on the number of miles you drive. Remember this, every dollar in cost saved contributes to $1 to your profit. I'm going to say that again. Every dollar in cost saved contributes $1 to your profit. Never forget that. So to kind of unpack this a little bit, one of the things I always talk about in your business, in every aspect of your business, when you have a budget, you're seeing and understanding what you pay for things, there's little things that you can trim. I always say, in trucking, there's some expenses that you can't control, but there's some things you can. And the things that you can control, you must. Like you can control how much you idle your truck. You can control certain things, like how much you spend on certain things, how much money you waste in certain areas. The things that you're looking at that you're wasting money is, see if you can cut back. And we're going to get more into budgets and looking at your overall finances and how to identify areas in your business where you can control price and cost. So over the course of our classes and episodes that we're going to be teaching this, we're going to talk more about finances and controlling those financial costs. All right. Knowing what it costs to own your truck each day will help you understand what your time is worth. Before you can start to manage your cost effectively, you must understand the difference between two different types of costs. That's fixed and variable. So let's talk about what fixed cost is. Fixed cost is a fixed cost does not change from month to month, but instead stays the same, no matter how many miles or how efficiently you run your business. I'm going to say that again. Fixed cost does not change from month to month, but instead stays the same no matter how many miles or how efficiently you run your business. Generally, a fixed cost cannot be altered on a short-term basis because of contractual agreements. They can be referred to as a cost of time since they are due on a regular basis, such as monthly, quarterly, or yearly, and are incurred daily regardless of business activity. The way to determine your fixed costs is to consider the expenses you would have to pay even if you weren't moving your truck. For a business owner, these are typically costs such as truck payments, they don't change. Insurance doesn't change. Base plates doesn't change. Rent does not change. Registration, along with other things. You'll have to make these payments whether your trucks move or not, and the amounts don't change, at least in the short term. So understanding those are those costs that you see every month, truck sitting, truck ain't moving, we ain't making no money, you're sick, you're down, whatever the case may be, the truck's down, you got those expenses to pay. They're there, regardless to whether or not you're making any money or not. Those bills are coming and they're the same, regardless. All right. So those are called your fixed costs. All right. Oops. All right. One way to manage your business successfully is to understand what your daily fixed costs are. And this is like, well, let me go on. If you know what it costs to run your truck and business each day, you can make sure that you generate enough revenue to offset those costs. The way to figure your daily fixed costs is to determine your monthly fixed costs and divide it by the number of days in the month, as in the next example. All right, so we're gonna say this again. Make sure you get it. One way to manage your business successfully is to understand what it costs to run your business each day. What's your daily cost? All right. The way to figure out what your daily fixed cost is to determine your monthly fixed cost and then divide it by the number of days in the month, as in the next example. So let's say if your truck payment is $1,500, you got a rent payment, whether it be office or you got a home office. All right. And that's an expense you got to have that you cover out of. Okay. So you got $2,000 a month. You got truck insurance is $1,700. So you got health insurance in there. It's consistent, $500. Legal and accounting, $300. You say you're spending money on load board. That's another $200 a month. Technology and software, you're spending $200 there. So let's just say these are some things I just came up with and threw in there. All right. So your total fixed cost per month is $6,400 a month. These are hypothetical, y'all. They ain't always real, but they're just hypothetical. $6,400 a month is what your fixed costs are. All right. So now divide the total fixed cost per month, which is $6,400, by the number of days in the month. So you got 30 days for your daily fixed costs. In this example, your daily fixed cost is $213.33. This is the amount you're going to pay on a daily basis, even if you're not hauling a load. So understanding your daily fixed cost is an important tool for understanding the amount of revenue you're going to need to be successful. So peep this, just on your fixed costs alone, you got to make $213.33. You got to make at least that. If you're not making that, you ain't you something you're functioning in the negative.
Yes.
So this is
Yeah.
why understanding the numbers, you got to understand what it costs to run your business. Or you're sitting around, you take days off. If you ain't got some money in the bank somewhere, you function in the negative. This is why I always talk to truckers about moving. You can't like I've watched so many guys sit and sometimes waiting for the right load, um, or missing loads, sitting somewhere and turning loads down, and they're not making any money but your expenses. These are all things you have to factor in, and you got to know. I understand, hey, I know what my cost per mile is. I turn that load down, I turn that load down. But let's say you sit for a day or two and you don't pull a load because you're waiting for the perfect load, or you waiting for a load at a certain amount and you miss a day. Well, guess what? You got bills to pay every day. Every day no money's coming in. No money's coming in. So there's a certain thing. Some money is better than no money. You know what I mean? But if no money's coming in, you got bills to pay. You're losing every day that you sit and you don't have that truck moving. So we're going to talk about my philosophy
But
behind that
but
as well. Go ahead.
let me ask you, Kevin.
Yeah.
What about on days like, let's say if it's a load that comes in and it's significantly lower than what I'm gonna make, and so this is how I look at it. Sometimes it's about risk.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, if it's a load that comes in and it's my daily fixed cost right now is at 213,
Mm-hmm.
it's coming in about, let's say 170,
Mm-hmm.
180.
Mm-hmm.
What about the risk of going out there to get that money, even though you know you're in the red, but you just need the money to pay bills, but you risk having another issue while on the road. You blow a tire, or it's you risk just any type of accident that
Mm-hmm.
is, is prone. Because I've done it before. I've said, man, we
Right.
need the money. We go out there. I know the margins are slim on this job. I know we're not gonna make any, but then we pop a front tire and now we go 800 in the head, and now we really in the hole. So I I look at it as the risk as well. Like, what is the risk of me taking? Yeah, I'm not making any money, but could this put me even further in the red if I go out here and take this job?
That's a good point. That's a good point. This leads to a great discussion. You got to make a call somewhere.
Mhm,
How deep in the hole are you? Do you have a cushion back there? You know what I mean?
mhm,
Can you afford to make that up in another way?
mhm,
Or if you're, on a serious grind and I'm in the hole and I need something because I've been the struggling entrepreneur. Everything I've ever done, I've started with nothing. So
mhm,
I understand grinding your way up. You know what I mean? They say getting your hustle on and really grinding. I understand that whole mindset because that's the only way I've ever been able to do it. So you have to make but I also say this, how many times can I sit there and do that?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? How long can I sit there and do that? Because guess what? At the end of the month, something's either getting turned off, lights getting turned off, phone getting turned off, something's
Mhm,
happening. Truck notice due, truck insurances due. Oh, I hit that by. So um, I've got to make a choice. I can sit there and play that and say, well, and I watch people do it. I'm not moving my truck for that. Okay, I understand. I
mhm,
understand, and that's the importance of knowing your cost per mile, knowing what it takes to move that truck, knowing what it takes for me to be profitable. But then at some point, I got to make a decision because it is business.
mhm,
I got to bring something in here. So it may require me to bring something in here, and then I got to juggle, and I'm gambling. But
mhm.
being in business is a gamble anyway. As an
It is.
entrepreneur, we all know that we want to gamble. We want to be informed when we gamble. Meaning, I got to know my numbers and know what I'm playing with. See, this is what I'm talking. We're talking about knowing your numbers and knowing when you
Mhm.
gamble. Gambling and not knowing your numbers,
Oh, that's
oh, that's a whole nother level. You
yeah,
know
it
what I'm
is.
saying? But knowing your numbers and then knowing, hey, I got to take this risk. I got to take this risk, man, because I sat here 2, 3 days. Lowe's ain't been right. I can't keep sitting here and not bringing nothing in because we sure enough gonna be in trouble if I do that. Hoping that I hit a lick or hoping can't do that too many days. So I understand your point, and some days there are you go out here and you blow a tire. Oh, that's gonna cost you a few $100. That's gonna put you even deeper in the hole that I but
Mhm,
I can't just sit here and not bring nothing in the door either.
mhm.
I got to get something. You know what I mean? So you have to, that's called, it's a business decision.
Hmm.
And at some point you got to make that. I can't tell you really what to do on that, but you got to make a decision at some point. That's, and that's part of being an entrepreneur. And one of the things I've always said about being an entrepreneur, we crazy. We built, if a real entrepreneur, we built different
We
because
are.
we're risk takers.
Yes,
We're
we
really
are.
risk takers. And to really be a real entrepreneur, you got to be willing to take this risk, to go out here and lose and win. This is the gamble. And the truth of the matter is sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and say this now before we even move on. One of the things that I find about most people that don't make it as entrepreneurs is they want to stay in their comfort zone. They're afraid to take risks. I remember Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, said on Shark Tank, one of the biggest things that what we see entrepreneurs that don't make it, the biggest determining factor is not money. It's not whether or not you have money, enough money. It's determination.
Mhm.
And there's sometimes I've sat down with people and they wanted me to consult and advise them or ready to pay me, and I've turned them down because I recognized they didn't have what it takes. They were going to lose. And that losing was about their mentality.
Mhm.
And they didn't have that dog in them. They didn't have that. They weren't hungry enough that they would have been willing to overcome. That's what I love about you, brother. You got that thing in you. I will not be denied because in business you're going to take hits. Your reality is you're going to take hits. You're going to have days where you're going to lose.
Yes, it is.
You're going to have
I,
days
I
we
I
talked
have
about.
this philosophy, man. So I played football at Georgia State, and my coach used to always tell us when we used to watch film, you may think that you've done something terribly wrong on film, and when we watch it, I'm like, oh my God, coach, we got to watch this. Or you may think you've done something really good, and you can't wait to watch it. But what he's always say is never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. It's so what I've always like used. I've had so many risks I've had to take, so many issues that have come about. Like man, but once you sit down and think about the problem or whatever that is, you
Mhm.
realize that there's always a solution. And you don't ever
Always.
have to panic and be in a frantic and
Right.
oh my
Right.
God, I'm gonna fail. This is gonna take no. It's always a solution. So
Yeah.
it's never once I get that initial phone call, I always say it's never as good and it's never as bad. It's
Right.
just
Right.
just stay
Right.
in the
Right.
middle and figure out a solution because you're gonna have to right now that 213, you got bills coming. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
take a risk.
You're gonna have to,
And
and it's a gamble. Being in business
mm,
is a gamble, and you got to know that you sometimes gambles are gonna win. So you have to take what we call in business calculated risks. There are such things
calculated.
as calculated risks. I'm well aware of the risk I'm taking. I know the numbers. And it's called calculated risk. And in business, you have to be willing to do that. All right, so we're gonna move on from there. All right. So let's talk about variable costs. We just discovered what fixed costs are. And now we're going to talk about variable costs. I don't know why this thing is hopping. Okay. Variable costs are those that change and is usually based on the distance traveled and are directly related to operating your truck. These costs are driven by the business activity and the miles you run. Think of variable costs as the cost of distance because they change based on the number of miles your truck runs. The variable costs you incur, such as fuel, maintenance, and tolls, are what makes your truck go down the road. You won't know the total of your variable costs until you actually start moving freight, although your budget will give you a good idea of what it will be. They include expenses, again, such as fuel taxes, meals, incidentals, tolls, communication, supplies for the truck, and maintenance. These are things that go into the category of variable costs because they vary. They vary. They're not the same. They're not written in stone every month. They vary based on what you're doing, how much business you're doing, how far you drive. All right, variable costs.
So variable costs, I'm not gonna lie, these are the expenses I love
Mhm.
because once you learn them, once you start tweaking them, that's when you start to see where the margins either get smaller, they get
Right.
they get larger, they get smaller, whatever that may be. But if you're able to really see those numbers, okay, we spent 150 in fuel last week. Why?
Right. right,
Maybe we can drop it down to 120. That's $30
right,
there.
right.
You do that three
The,
more weeks, you
those are
know.
the ones that you try to control. Remember, we talked
Yes.
about controlling certain, those are the ones you definitely try to control as much as you can.
Yes.
You have some control over some of it you don't. But those are the ones you try to control. And as we dive deep into the course of building the trucking company, we're going to talk about how to reduce your fuel costs and understanding fuel, the true price of fuel, and the whole aspect of fuel and managing fuel and how that can impact your bottom line. So we're going to get into that too at some point. All right. So what is CPM? CPM stands for cost per mile, expressed as cents per mile, and is the cost of operating your truck for each mile driven. So your CPM is the total cost divided by total miles. Again, total cost divided by total miles driven gives you your cost per mile. All right. Your total CPM is calculated by adding up all of your business fixed costs. We talked about that first, which are the expenses that are all the same every month. They don't change. Those are your fixed costs. You add up all your fixed costs, give you your total fixed costs for a period of time. For example, in 1 month. So add up all your fixed costs for the month and then adding up all your business variable costs for the same month. So if you go back and look at, okay, calculate, add up all your fixed costs, add up all your variable costs, and then and then put those numbers together. All right, that gives you your total cost. All right, and then determine the total number of miles you drove in that same month. How many miles did I drive? All right, in the same month. All right, divide your total costs. Fixed costs plus variable costs equals your total cost. Take your total cost and divide your total cost by the number of miles you drove that much. And that will be expressed as in cents per mile. And that's how you calculate your cost per mile. All right, total cost divided by total number of miles you drove that month. All right. So if someone asked you how much it cost to run your truck last month, and for a lot of folks, I already know you wouldn't know because unfortunately, most truckers have their egos are too big because I've asked like hundreds upon hundreds of people, hey, do you understand your cost per mile? In my classes, I would have, hey, do you understand your cost per mile? And everybody would just sit there. And then some people are like, oh, yeah, yeah, I know what it is. And then you ask, well, what is it? How do you, and then you put them on the spot because so many owner operators out there don't know. And we're going to get into that aspect of ego and getting in your own way with your ego and knowing what you don't know and being able to admit what you don't know. So again, if someone asked you how much it cost to run your truck last month, would you have to spend hours digging through receipts and adding them up? Even if you knew your total cost, would you know how it compared to the previous month's total cost? How about year to year? Or what caused the increase or decline for each cost? Keeping track of your cost per mile allows you to understand this information. All right. So here's a chart breaking down your fixed costs over on the left. Remember your truck payment, your rent, your insurance, your health insurance, legal and accounting, your load board, your technology, total fixed cost, $6,400 a month. And let's look at what your variable costs are. Let's say you spend $5,000 on fuel. Fuel tax is $120, maintenance $700, tolls $140. Say communication costs you $100. And your total variable cost is $6,060. All right. So you have total fixed costs of $6,400, total variable cost of $6,060. And then your total miles driven for the month was 12,000 miles. All right, so your total fixed cost plus total variable cost equals your total cost. So you got 6,400 plus 6060 equals $12,460. All right. Your total fixed cost, which is 6,400, plus your total variable cost, which is $6,060, equals $12,460. All right. Your total cost, which is 12,460, divided by total miles driven, which is 12,000 miles, equals $1.03 a mile. Now, that number is saying I can't move a load for less than $1.03 a mile. Now, of course, these numbers are fictitious. They're going to vary. Don't take that as, oh, a dollar a mile. I'm right. I'll be right. No, that ain't necessarily your number. All right. These are just fictitious numbers. But that's how you calculate what your cost per mile is, knowing I can't take a load for less than that. Anything less than that, I'm not profitable. Every time I move my truck needs to move for at least that. Your CPM could be a buck 70. Your CPM could be $2. It'd be a buck 50. Whatever it is, you got to know what that number is to know when I move my truck, I'm moving it for at least that, or I'm not making money. And if you take something for less than that, oh, I got to make up on the next one because I lost on that last one. But you got to know what it costs to run your truck and to manage your business, to cover your operating expenses for the month. So if you run in 1 week and I had a good week this week, but the next week you had a bad week and you're just spending money, you don't really know what it costs to cover your bills, to cover your operating costs, to break even. What does it cost to run that business each day? We're going to dive a little bit further into this right here. Some good stuff here. Hang with me. All right. In this example, the CPM is $1.03 per mile. That means that for every mile you drove in that particular month, it costs you $1.03 to operate your business. Your cost per mile will change depending on the number of miles you drive. As you increase the miles driven, your total CPM will decrease. Even though your variable costs such as fuel and maintenance will increase the more miles you drive, your fixed costs will not vary based on your miles. Instead, you'll spread your fixed costs out over more miles as you drive more, which ultimately lowers your total cost per mile. In addition to calculating your total CPM, you can also calculate an individual cost per mile for each expense you have. Now, this is cool too, because you want to know numbers like this too. For instance, in the above previous example, your truck payment was $1,500 for the month. To calculate your truck payment cost on a per mile basis, divide your monthly truck payment by the total number of miles driven in the month. So if your truck payment is $1,500 divided by 12,000 miles equals 13 cents. Individual expense, all right, divided by total miles driven. All right, your truck payment CPM for the month expressed in cents per mile is 13 cents per mile. So of what you're making, 13 cents of that going towards my truck payment. You feel what I'm saying? So you're able to take an individual expense and identify what it costs you for just to make my truck, to pay for my truck each day. All right. So your truck payment for this month, expressed in cents per mile, is 13 cents. You can do the same for all of your expenses or calculate your CPM for just your fixed costs or just your variable costs. So you can do that in all of it.
I mean, that's the basics right there of your business.
Right.
And knowing if you're profitable or you're not profitable. Even going deeper into, you can also put maybe some the owner or the driver, their wages, salaries into
Absolutely. Those go into those are also your fixed costs. Like there are things that I didn't put in there, but there's a lot of things that can and should go into what your fixed costs are.
Yes.
All your expenses, like I said, if you're gonna pay yourself a salary, which I recommend, you don't just for a lot of you guys, and we're gonna get into that in the financial aspect. Put yourself on the salary. You know what I mean? And just know what that is and pay yourself a salary. And we'll talk about
because why that's important is because even if you make 30,000 one month or you make 5,000, you're still making the same amount. And so with that excess, it may be excess of 15,000 in your account after you pay everything and you paid yourself. That doesn't mean that money needs to be spent, just frivolous. That's when you put that money up for times when things get slow.
Absolutely.
From when you can't find those rates that you need to break even, you may say, "Oh, I'm good. I put away a month worth, 2 months worth, whatever they may be, to help you, make it from slow time to when it's booming to It's always like cyclical changes in trucking. You have your seasons for certain produce or certain things that's being moved versus during the summertime. So you always just want to be looking at those numbers, calculating those numbers, man. It's so important. that tells, I always say numbers tell a story. I can look at numbers and it will tell me a story of how things are being operated, ran,
Yeah.
if you're profitable, if your margins are slim, if your margins are
Right.
high,
Right.
what you may need to change. Okay, this is a little too high. You may need to, so pay attention to those numbers. They're so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, numbers matter. Listen, man, that's good stuff. We
Yeah.
say numbers tell the story. They don't
Yes.
lie. They say numbers don't lie.
They don't. They do
Numbers don't
not.
lie. Yeah, numbers don't lie. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, like I said, that was a jewel we wanted to give away in our premiere episode. Just understanding your cost per mile, understanding whether or not you're profitable. Um, our next episode, I'm going to be going into, and Malcolm and I are going to talk very much in depth about the most important factor in building a successful company, a successful trucking company, a successful business as a whole. I'm going to be talking about the biggest determining factor as to whether or not you succeed in a business. People don't understand it. People don't understand the importance of culture and leadership. I'm going to dive deep into that. Building a culture and the things we talk about when you interview people, the issue with hiring drivers and retaining drivers, why from the largest corporations in the industry struggle with driver retention. Why is there an industry problem with driver retention? I've talked about it at high levels. I've talked about it in some of the largest industry conferences. I've been asked as the head of a minority organization, the minority organization, and people, oh man, I've been invited to speak at seminars and things. People have approached me. I've been interviewed about recruiting and retention and my philosophy on that. And I'm going to talk about what's wrong with the industry and from that aspect and culture and leadership, and we're going to dive into that in our next segment and episode, so y'all don't miss that because we talking about the things that matter the most and whether or not you succeed in business. Oh, we're dropping that. So like I said, this was good, Malcolm. I appreciate you, appreciate this. We just wanted to introduce the world to the Truck Stop podcast.
Tell them where they can
And
find that webinar, the webinar, where they can
okay,
sign up
yeah,
for the webinar
yeah,
again.
the webinar. There's going to be a link in the description box. Click on that link, go register, go sign up, tell somebody about it. We're going to be dropping knowledge. We're going to be teaching the secret to grow in the company. It's how to sell and how to bid, step by step on selling, putting together a sales program, how to do it, how to make the cold calls, what you need to say, and how to bid, and what bids look like. We're going to go in depth in putting that together for you, showing you how to put that together. All right. So any thoughts or comments before we get out, Malcolm?
No, this has been good. I just tell, hey, like, subscribe, please share the podcast. We want to grow, we want to get this knowledge out to as many people as possible. We're trying to save the industry. We're trying to help people really build successful trucking companies. I know it's a lot of guys who probably done giving up on this industry. You're probably waiting to sell your truck, but hey, don't sell just yet. We can help you get back in the game and help you grow to where you want to go. Just keep tuning in. We will drop these gems. We drop this podcast, and just keep coming back, as well as sign up for the webinars as well. We're really dropping some gems over webinars, but keep coming back to this channel. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep sharing it, and that's that's it, man. This is our first episode, one of many, and we're gonna keep
Absolutely.
them coming.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Again, if you are struggling with your trucking company, need help, send us an email to the truckstop19@gmail.com and tell us why we should select you, why you need help, and we're going to look and select people each week, and we're gonna do a segment each week on Fix My Trucking Company. So be looking for that. We'll be announcing our first conversation in Truck Stop Conversations, which will be coming out probably in about another week or so. We'll be doing a sit-down conversation with that. And well, should we go ahead and tell them who we're going to be doing an interview with Malcolm, and we're going to be talking about the huge announcement for his national project. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be having a sit down conversation around that. All right.
Also, come back. We also have a news segment as well. We're dropping just the news of the industry to keep you up. You have to know what's going on in the industry that you're in. So come back for
Absolutely.
the news portion as well.
Absolutely. Then that's Truck Stop News Brief. Check that out when you see it. Of course, we're going to be, you'll be able to find the Truck Stop podcast on iTunes, on Spotify. We'll be on Facebook, we're YouTube. We're going to be everywhere podcasts and video podcasts can be found. So thank you all. Malcolm, appreciate you, brother. I love you,
Thank
man.
you. Love you too,
And
man. Thank you. Thank you. I
and
appreciate the opportunity.
yes, sir. Appreciate you. And we are excited about it. And it's been a good day. Thank you, brother. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.